Hi, welcome to block number 2 for month number 1. This is the Curtsey block. And the Curtsey block is a whole bunch of half square triangles, and then we have a 3-part hourglass. So we're going to show you that in a second. So when we are doing half square triangles, our squares are 3 1/4 inches, and then you're going to line them up on top of each other. So we have 2 half square triangles. We have number 2 and number 8, and then we have fabric number 4 and number 5. We've got them all lined up. You're going to mark your centers. You're going to sew a 1/4 inch from either side of the center, and then you're going to go ahead and cut them apart in the middle, and then you're going to square them. And then you're going to want to take these to your ironing board, iron them flat. One of the fun things about this, once you take these pink ones to the ironing board, you can go ahead and lay them out in the shape of the pinwheel that we're making, and then trim. So when we're doing a pinwheel, we're going to end up with this block. You're going to lay out your block like this, okay, so that the colors chase each other, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. You can sew these together in the 4 patch and then square from the center. Okay, so you don't have to trim these first. You can go ahead and sew this all together and then trim once. That's the trick to that. Okay, so I would sew these 2 together, iron them out, sew these 2 together, iron out, iron these 2 together, and then when I'm ready to square, I'm going to put the center of my ruler. The center is, I call it the pico, which is like belly button in Hawaiian. Lay these out as well as you can on the diagonals. Square, flip, and square to that 4 1/2 inch by 4 1/2 inch pinwheel. Please note, okay, this one, it doesn't matter, but sometimes it matters. Pinwheels can get set up in different directions, okay? So I could switch this around and you can see that the colors chase opposite. So in this block, the light is on top and the pink is on the bottom. This one, it's opposite with the pink on top and white on the bottom. In this block, it doesn't matter. Okay, if you do your pinwheel this direction or that direction, don't worry about it. I have people that do their pinwheel and they go, oh my gosh, I have to take it apart because it's opposite of the picture. In this block, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it does matter, and I will let you know. Okay, so just go ahead and happily make your pinwheel for block number 2. Okay, on the other blocks, these you are going to square up before we do anything. Okay, so in the pinwheel, you don't have to square up, but on these, you want to go ahead, take your half square triangle and square them up using your 2 1/2 inch. Oh, come on, cut. There you go. So that these are all the same size. Again, I use the square on square 8-inch trim tool. It is very easy to find that diagonal to square your pieces. You can use your regular ruler to square. If you have the Creative Grids ruler, you have that diagonal right along there into the corner. So you want to line up that diagonal with the 45-degree angle. Do 2 1/2 inch by 2 1/2 inch to square off that little block. Okay, so we are going to have 8 of these blocks, and then you're going to have 4 each of these. Again, we're going to lay them out with the pink in one corner, the light in the other corner, and your blue triangles on the outside. You're going to stack all 4 of them and then go ahead and sew your 4 patches. Okay, now we are going to do the last section of this. You are going to cut out of fabric number 2 and fabric number 10, a 6-inch square. You're going to take those 6-inch squares and cut them on the diagonals, and you're going to end up with a whole bunch of triangles, 4 of them, and then you're going to sew them together as 3-part units like shown on the bottom. Now, the reason we've cut these apart is because these do have to be sewn identically, where your fabric number 2 and your fabric number 10 are sewn exactly in this order on all 4 of them. Okay? So once you have these 4 done, you have a fabric number 11, 5.5-inch square. You're going to cut that in half, and you're going to put this one on top of the other, lining up the centers, and you're going to sew. So you're going to end up with 4 identical squares looking like this. Okay? There we go. Once you're at this point, we are going to be squaring these down to 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Again, this is when I really like my square on square tool, because it's very easy to find that center, right? To line up the diagonals and then trim. Because you want to square from the center. If you have a regular ruler, you are going to find your 2.25 by 2.25 point, and that's the point where you're going to drop right on that center. Okay, 2.25 by 2.25. That's your first cut, and then turn, drop it into the 4.5 by 4.5, and that's your second cut. So once you have 4 of these, one is going to be really big and a little awkward because I didn't sew it together yet. Your pinwheel is the center of your block. Your 3 parts pieces are going to go around. Yep. Here. And then on your corners, the white is going to go to the outside. And that is your curtsey block. We will see you next month. It's going to be a doozy.